Yes, we've been expecting you. You'll have to be recorded before you're officially released. There's a few ways we can do this, and the choice is yours. During character creation in the vanilla game, you get to choose your race, your class, and your birth sign. But have you ever wanted to just have a few more role-playing options? Like, have you ever wanted to choose your character's cultural background? Or maybe your character's ancestral legacy? Like, what is their lineage? And have you ever wanted to choose a deity to worship? Like in the classic D&D role-playing games. Today's mod of the day, or as I should say, mods of the day, because we are showcasing 3 mods here, just has you covered, because today we're showcasing MTR By The Divines, MTR Cultures, and MTR Lineages by MTR. And basically, what these mods do is they expand the character generation process with new options for you to choose from during, character generation. So that means you'll find a new deity menu just as part of the character generation process where you can select a deity for your character to worship. And there are over 70 deities from around Tamriel for you to choose from. Like, you could choose to worship Namira, or maybe Ebenon, the god of war. That's typically a deity worshipped by the Guild of Fighters. Or maybe you'll worship Magnus, the god of sorcery, or Rajim, the thief god of the Khajiit, or Tava, the Yokudan spirit of the air, or Zeht, the Yokudan god of farms, or just all these other deities that you could choose from. You could even just hit the random option and end up being a worshipper of Anu and Padme, or Jode and Joan, or, just so on and so forth. There are just so many options to choose from, and all of them, by the way, have their connections to lore and the history of Tamriel. And you can read all about each of these deities here in the deity menu. And by the way, they do all have their own bonuses and penalties for the worshippers who follow them. So, for example, if you're following the deity of Canarthi, the Khajiit god of winds, you get a +10 to your agility. If you're following Ebenon, the god of war, you get a +5 to strength and a +10 to speechcraft. But if you're following Namira, you get the ability to reflect spells back towards your opponents, but at the cost of -10 to your personality, and a slight blindness to, being out in sunlight. And it's the same with the lineages and cultures. Like, all these different options will have different penalties and bonuses that they'll grant your character. And in the case of cultures, that's actually limited by race. So each race has about 5 or 6, different cultures that they can choose from. So, for example, if you're playing as a Khajiit character, you could choose to be from the Banderi culture, which is a culture of nomadic fortune tellers from elsewhere. Or you could choose to be from the Quinal culture of northern elsewhere, or the Palatine culture of southern elsewhere. If you're playing as a Dunmeri character, you could be from the Cantameric Velothi culture, which is allegedly extinct due to the Canadian flu. But, you can always find a way to roleplay as, like, a survivor of that flu. Or you could just choose to play as a different Dunmeri culture, like the Velothi culture, or, one of the house cultures. But anyway, in addition to the cultures, there's also the lineages, which is, the bloodlines of your ancestry. Like, yes, you've got your race, but you could maybe have had a few different, different kinds of ancestors. Like, maybe there's some Akaviri in your bloodline, or Centaur, or Dyraki, or Farmer, or Daedroth, or Atronox, or Gremlins, or Hagravens, or Ogres, Tangmo, Grumites, or so on and so forth. Like, maybe there's just a tiny bit of that blood somewhere in your ancestry, and all this, the cultures and the lineages, and all this has connections to both lore, and will have, penalties and bonuses, for, adding that to your character. And you can just, choose to hit the random option for all 3 of these character generation, options, like religion, lineage, and culture. And to just share some of the characters I created while just, randomly selecting things, one of my characters was a Neoholder, or Newholder Nord, a crusader with a Daedroth lineage, who worshipped Mephala. Now, don't ask me exactly how he got a Daedroth lineage. I don't know. His great-great-great-great-grandfather was into some really, really weird stuff, I guess. But, that's what I ended up with. And this does lead to some rather interesting little consequences, because as a Nord, he has a resistance to frost damage, but as a Nord with a Daedroth lineage, he actually has a weakness to frost. But he's a really good swimmer as a result, and as a worshipper of Mephala, he also gets a +10 to agility, a +5 to mysticism, illusion, sneak, and short blade. So, just a bit of a mixed bag there. Now, another character I created was a Hene Dunmeri Knight, who was half Argonian and worshipped Mera. Now, how exactly a Hene Bosmer, and the Hene culture is exclusive to the northwest of Alanwood, ended up being half Argonian, I don't know, but, that gives you... that's the sort of thing that you can roleplay, that's the kind of thing that you can just improv with. Create an interesting background for how your character ended up that way. But anyway, as a half Argonian, he gets a +5 to agility and intelligence, not to mention a resistance to poison. But he gets -5 to endurance and personality. And that kind of, it actually hurts, because as a follower of the Hene culture, he gets another -5 to personality and -5 to intelligence. So, it kind of balances out a bit, except for the personality. He's really unlikable, I guess. Now, another character I created, just using the random options, was a Bandiri Khajiit, a healer who also just happened to be a Rat King due to Mirlord's character backgrounds, and worshipped Jigalag, which is, the Daedroth God of Agriculture. And as a worshipper of Jigalag, he has a constant effect to restore health. But he also has constant effect silence, and I don't know what that means exactly. I guess that means he just can never cast a spell? Which would make him a pretty terrible healer, except unless maybe all the healing he did was through alchemy, I don't know. But again, this just gives you a ton of role-playing options, and a ton of ways to just flesh out your character's background. These mods just, add a ton of verticality to your role-playing potential. But anyway, that's just our mods of the day. So, as always, I've been your host, Dark Elf Guy. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, happy modding, and I'll see you all next time.